Mac Power Users, episode 579. 30 Mac apps under $30. Hello, everyone. This is David Sparks. I am joined today by Mr. Stephen Hackett. How are you today, Stephen?
I'm good, David. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I got a little bit of an allergy thing going on, so I apologize for the way my voice sounds. I did have like one of those nice puppy moments this morning because my dog is not a very affectionate dog. You know how some dogs like want to climb and sleep on you all the time?
Yeah.
My dog wants to sleep right next to you, but doesn't want to be on you. But I was dealing with these allergies this morning and I just couldn't take it. I just laid on the couch and the dog came up and just laid in my lap and said, "Hey, buddy,
Yeah.
I can tell you're having a hard time."
Yeah. I knew you felt bad.
Yeah, it was nice. But here I am talking to Mac Power Users with a little bit of a raspy voice. So sorry about that. We have been wanting for a while to just kind of survey some Mac apps that aren't going to break the bank that we love. And we started making a list. And as we developed the show, is it going to be 10 apps for $30? Well, no, it's 30 apps for $30. So, gang, protect your wallet. We apologize in advance, but we got some great apps to talk about today.
Yeah.
Before we do, a couple of intro points.
Yeah. I felt like you were watching me do my homework.
Yes.
Because
I'm always
your
watching
feature from the Mac App Store has been back in circulation the last week or so.
Yeah, that was weird, right? They don't tell me. It just shows up one day and I start seeing tweets and things.
Mm-hmm.
Did I talk about the first time that ran that whole experience? Did I already share that on the show? I can't remember.
Yeah, where they like had clothes for you that fit.
Yeah, it was so weird, man.
So weird. All of that stuff.
The whole team showed up at my house. They had clothes that fit. I don't know. It was great. You know, I think everybody for one day in their life needs to be pampered like that, but just one. Mm-hmm. Honestly,
just one.
That's all I need.
Yeah, it was. When is the first time that ran?
I want to say about a year and a half ago. It was before COVID.
Yeah. But yeah, I spent a lot of time in the Mac App Store the past week or so preparing for this episode, way more than I normally do. And every time I open it, it's like, oh, David, what's up? Just watching me.
I know. Well, I had the same experience because I was preparing for the show. My wife was in the next room watching TV, and a St. Jude commercial came on, and your voice came out of it. You're on the St. Jude commercial. So that's pretty cool. And Josiah, too. Josiah is much better looking than you are, by the way.
True.
He's so happy in his picture. But you do have the Saturn V rocket. So, gang, if you're watching TV and a St. Jude commercial comes up, pay close attention. You may see a beloved podcaster.
That's right. Yeah, it's funny. Anytime that is aired, and it was on a lot during the holidays and beginning of the year. And I think it's back now. But anytime it's on the air, I get texts and stuff from people like, "Oh, I saw you on ESPN." Like, oh, that's fun.
I guess if you've got, if you're a fan of Hallmark Channel, I have a little quick piece of advice because we saw it on an app called Friendly. You know, after we cut the cord, my wife really likes Hallmark Channel movies, and that's her like escape drug. But once we cut the cord, we didn't have Hallmark Channel anymore. But Friendly, for like, I think it was like $50 a year, you get all the Hallmark Channel you can take. That's where the commercial keeps showing up on for us.
Cool.
So if you like Hallmark Channel, there's a quick tip for you. One other thing before we start today, I just wanted to take a minute to pour one out for the iMac Pro. We got the news this week that Apple is selling iMac Pro only now in the base configuration while supplies last. And that means that, it's going away, which, we've talked about this. In fact, last week on More Power Users, we kind of talked about the future of the line, and we both kind of speculated that the iMac is going to get a redesign, and it's going to be so good that the iMac Pro, there's really no space for it left between the iMac and the Mac Pro.
Right.
I mean, this isn't a surprise at all. I mean, I sold my iMac Pro a few months ago, but what was surprising for me was how sad it made me because I just really loved that computer. I've never been like sentimental about Apple canceling a line before, but this one really kind of got me in the feels.
I think it was the best Intel iMac, or excuse me, I'll go further. The best Intel Mac ever sold. It was super powerful, dead quiet, super reliable. I mean, I sold mine to upgrade to a Mac Pro, which was like a lifelong dream. And even I'm sad about this news. It was so great.
Yeah, it was a great command. I called the guy who took mine, and I told him, hey, you got it just in time. He's like, yeah, I know. And he saw it coming too. I mean, this isn't a surprise because the Apple Silicon iMacs are going to be amazing, and they're going to be whisper quiet. And I feel like, in effect, it's going to remain. The high end iMac is going to be the iMac Pro, but it's probably not going to be called the iMac Pro. Um, but I had this like vague memory of for your prediction show on Connected. Didn't you say that they're going to replace the iMac Pro with an Apple Silicon iMac Pro this year? Did you say something like that?
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to tell. Who could know? I mean,
Yeah,
I have to go open that Google
I honestly
Doc.
don't remember, but I remember you saying something like that. I was thinking, oh, that's a mistake.
Let's see what I said. I'm pulling up the document. I said Apple has Apple Silicon versions of all of its Intel Macs on sale by the end of the year. I think we talked about the iMac Pro. Like, well, what if that one is still around? But clearly it's not going to be around. I think for that exact reasoning, that it just makes so much sense for the iMac just to take back over that spot. Because remember, the iMac Pro, what's important here is that it was going to be the only Pro desktop.
Yeah,
that
it was going to be
plan.
the end of the line. That was going to be the best one you could buy.
And then they had that roundtable discussion, Gruber and Panzerino and some other people were there. And they said two things. They said, hey, there's a Pro version of the iMac that's coming. So that's the iMac Pro. And also we are going to be building a Mac Pro again. And that came out, about a year and a half after this meeting. So
yeah,
it was going to be the high end. I'm glad that that's not the direction they went, but at the same time, the computer they made to fit that slot was really dang good.
Yeah, it was. It was a great Mac. And I would not recommend buying one because, they're a limited quantity or whatever. I feel like the Apple Silicon iMacs are going to be great. And although one thing I would say is the fact that they're shutting this down now, does that mean that the iMac is coming sooner than we expected? I don't know.
I honestly don't know. I mean, we could have an event in March and there's iMacs there. Who knows? I really would be surprised. I think we talked about this in More Power Users last week. I would be surprised if we're stuck waiting until WWDC to see new Apple Silicon Macs, but I just don't know.
Well, either way, I did find myself surprisingly saddened by the news that I totally expected. So there you have it. That was a great Mac. I also, on More Power Users today, I know you just finished an experiment with a 12 Pro Max phone. I'm curious to hear if you kept it or not, but we'll do that in More Power Users today.
Sounds good.
So today we wanted to, getting back to Mac apps, we wanted to make a list of Mac apps that are fun. There's no games on the list. A lot of it is productivity and utility heavy. But, the Mac has traditionally been the platform where software costs more. I mean, they kind of had that historical pricing position. Whereas on the mobile devices, apps, the original pricing was, $2 to $10. On the Mac, that's not true. I mean, Mac apps can cost a lot of money. So things are a little more expensive on the Mac, but, there's a lot of great apps out there still in a very, reasonable price frame. And we thought we'd talk about a few of them.
Yeah, there were definitely several apps that would have made the cut if we capped it at 50. In fact, there were several that I was going to pick, but, the rule was 30, which I think is a good place. And there's still lots of options. We still have 30 apps here, and I think we could probably even push further if we wanted.
Yeah, agreed. There were apps I was sad to leave off the list because of their pricing, but hey, we made a deal with you. All apps today under $30. We did cheat a little bit, I would say, because we talked about some subscription apps. I tried to limit that, but there were a couple.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid that.
Yeah, but even those, the subscription is under $30. So you want to just start in on this?
Yeah, and I'm going to start with an MPU favorite, and that is the Mac version of Carrot Weather.
Yeah.
Carrot Weather just got a huge update on iOS and iPadOS to version 5. Carrot Weather on the Mac is still using the older interface. It still looks like Carrot Weather 4 did, but that's totally fine. That app looked great. It's $14.99 to get in the door, and then it does have some subscription stuff if you want the more premium data. But the app itself is $14.99, and it does something that a lot of other apps do, is that it puts the weather in your menu bar, and you click on it, and you get the forecast hourly, and then like the next 10 days. You also have a radar, which listeners know, something that I love having. But because I already use Carrot Weather elsewhere, it's just a natural fit for me.
Yeah, I bought the app when they first released it, and it's been a mainstay in my menu bar because I think it's a great weather app. I do like having the weather in my menu bar, and it's a good solution. One of the things I've done with Carrot Weather in the last 30 days, and I think you recommended this to me, is I switched the source to Forca, Foreca.
Yeah.
And I have been getting remarkably better weather predictions with that source. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, it seems to be much more reliable than the Weather Channel, or even Dark Sky that Apple had bought and is going to be shutting down at some point, I think in the next year or so. Dark Sky, for me at least, is still great with, hey, it's going to rain in 6 minutes, but their forecast for temperatures, at least where I live, is just all over the place. And so Forca or Forza, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, has been great. And so I switched to it a while back on Carrot Weather and all of my devices, and have been really happy with that as the data. Now I still use Dark Sky because you can supplement that and have Carrot Weather still bring in Dark Sky for again, it's going to rain in 5 minutes or whatever, but I don't rely on them for the forecast data itself anymore.
Yeah, it's been great. My experience with Dark Sky is it was underreporting rain in Southern California, and I've got like things I need to cover and whatnot when it rains, and it just wasn't doing it, where Forca has been like right on it. But either way, the Dark Sky, they make an app for the Mac, and you should check it out. Another one that I would recommend, and they're now up to version 3, is Solver, Soulver, and it's like a scratch pad calculator. And this is one we've talked about on the show. A lot of these apps we're going to mention today have come up on the show at some point during the 12-year run, But this is one that I don't use every day, but I use often. It's like halfway between a calculator and a spreadsheet app, and you can write in plain text in it, but it also does calculations. And whenever I need to like figure out how much I need to pay somebody, or like when I was doing some work in the yard and I was figuring out square footage for different things I needed to buy soil for and whatnot, I just like the experience of using it so much more than a spreadsheet, because I can be way more descriptive. I don't have to monkey around with the fields like you do in a spreadsheet to get good descriptions. And I can print it out, save it. It syncs over the cloud. They've got versions on mobile, and they've got a version on the Mac too. And I just really dig it. And I've bought the update every time they came out with it, and been real happy with it.
Yep. I use it all the time. I have some regular monthly stuff I do at work that I use Solver for. But yeah, just like you said, like if you're measuring multiple things, or you just need to take notes. And so, well, I love calculators, and I guess spoiler, there's another calculator in this list somewhere. It's sometimes hard, like, to just have the numbers, and you need context. And so if this isn't making sense, like, click the link in the show notes, you can see the screenshots, but you can basically write out what you're doing. And so in this, with your example of a square footage, you could write, 15 feet, and then south fence, and 10 feet next to garage, and like have context around the calculations. And that really makes sort of thinking through what you're doing easier. And yeah, it's super brilliant. Zach is a cool guy. I should say Solver is actually sponsoring 512 Pixels for the past week. That's just a coincidence. But this is an app that I've used forever, and I turn to it for all sorts of things.
Well, a couple points I'd add to it is it works really good in a small window, which spreadsheets don't really work well in a small window, which is another way you can have it just aside on your Mac, and being adding calculations to it as you're working through something, which is another reason I really like it. I will say when I added this to the list a week ago, it was under $30. I think it was 29.99, and today I'm looking and it's 34.99. So at some point, I don't know if he's doing some kind of marketing test or whatever. It's slightly over $30. I'm sorry, gang, but I will. I'll take an oath that it was under $30 when I put this on the list. So there you go.
All right. I'm going to go with a Read It Later app as my next choice. And I'm going to go with Good Links, which we've spoken about before. I initially had some trouble with this app. So this is a universal app. It's on Mac, iPhone, iPad, etc. And it syncs through iCloud. You can basically save things to read later. It keeps them offline, has a cool reader mode. I dumped like 10,000 things in this from my Instapaper backlog, my archive, because like, well, I just want all this stuff in one place. And it really didn't like that. But in the updates since then, it's actually become much more responsive and syncs perfectly now. So it has really come along. The development has been very aggressive on Good Links. And I've really gotten to a point where I like it better than Instapaper. I think Instapaper feels increasingly fragile, and Good Links is a one-time expense, which is really cool. It's like $5 for using it across the platforms, and Instapaper has moved to a subscription model. So if you want to get away from something like that, but still want a native app, I mean, by native, I mean it's not a web wrapper. It also has Safari extensions. So from the Mac or iOS, you can just tap the Good Links button and it'll send whatever is in your current tab over to it. It's really nicely done, really clean, really modern looking. And it's on the dock on my Mac and on the home screen of my iOS devices.
Does it allow you to like highlight and like review text in Good Links as well?
No, it does not. So this is really I guess closer to something like Safari's reading list, but that's all that I really need. There are things that end up in DevonThink that I save in Good Links. I'm like, oh, I should check this out. And if I think it's a good piece of research for later, I'll DevonThink it, and then there I can mark it up and do whatever. But it's really simpler than some of the other tools people may be used to.
I as well, because we covered Read It Later in RSS within the last year, and I have evolved a bit on this as well. A pick I have for the Mac, this is one of the only good RSS readers for the Mac, is Reader with two E's. And Reader version 5 is now out. And I went ahead and bought the updates just to see what I thought. As you may recall, when we did the show, I was a little worried about the unread subscription is I think $20 a year, which felt like a lot for an RSS app. But I went ahead and subscribed because I do like the way unread looks, and it's been a very stable RSS app for me. But then I also got thinking about all the money I'm spending. So I'm spending money on the yearly subscription to Unread. They don't have a Mac app. I'm spending money on Feed Wrangler to manage my feeds, which is, it's like $10 or $15 a year. And then I'm spending money on Instapaper to use it as my Read Later service. And I do like the idea of highlighting and annotating in my Read Later service. So, I'm not really entirely happy with all that money and having three apps. And Reader 5 really tries to scratch all three of those itches. So with the new version, it has a built-in feed management service that it syncs through your iCloud account. So you don't need like a feed wrangler service. You can just pick feeds and they will all sync across all your devices. You don't need to have a third party involved. Reader 5 does that for you. Have you tried the app since they released this new version?
Yeah, I upgraded to it. It's what I use everywhere, and the iCloud sync is cool. I'm still using Feedbin because I have a lot of newsletters that I send to my RSS reader, so they're not in my inbox. Because Feedbin has this deal where like you have a secret email address and you subscribe to newsletters using it, and they show up like feed items in Reader. So I haven't switched over to their own syncing, but I've heard good things. It seems like they nailed it on the first try.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had any problems. I still have my Feed Wrangler subscription still exists. It doesn't renew for another like 6 months. So um, I'm just kind of trying it now to see how it'll go, but it's working really good. I think I'll probably be able to cancel Feed Wrangler. And then on the back end of it, they have a read later service built into the app. So you can save to read later with a simplified view right in Reader. So then once again, you don't have to go to a third app. And I could potentially cancel Instapaper. It definitely doesn't have the features that Instapaper does. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that side of the equation. Like Steven, I do save like later research materials to DevonThink. So that's kind of the ultimate destination for this stuff. Maybe I could just cut Instapaper out. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do there yet. But this app for the Mac right now is $9.99. It's $10 to have an efficient, RSS app on your Mac. Even if you're not totally sold with Reader and you want to use a different RSS app on your iPhone, you can have for $10 an app on your Mac that sees the same feed. Like when I was using Feed Wrangler, I could see my feeds in Reader on the Mac and on Unread on the iPhone. So it's a great app, and Silvio Rizzi has been there for how many years now? 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, just continuing to work on this app and make it better. There's no subscription; it is a purchase. He does still release I mean, he's to version 5 now, so I've paid for it now 2 or 3 times. But you know what? That's a model, and it works. And he's got some pretty good software. So I'm really thinking. I haven't really committed to it yet because I do like the way Unread renders text. But I'm really thinking about just like cutting out a whole lot of noise and just doing a Reader subscription and or just using Reader to do all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that it's sort of taken stuff on, but it makes sense, right? Read it later in RSS. They're two sides of a coin almost. And so to have them in one app, I think makes a lot of sense for a lot of people.
Yeah, and that what's happened is DevonThink, which is sometimes a sponsor, so take this with a grain of salt, but they now do CloudKit syncing, which means the sync to mobile devices is much more efficient and faster. So getting to that stuff you've saved to DevonThink on your iPad is not as big of a deal as it used to be. So that suddenly makes DevonThink as the read it later, source more practical.
Mm-hmm.
This episode of the Mac Power Users is brought to you by 1Password. Go to onepassword.com/MPU in all caps to get 20% off. 1Password is my trusted app to create and manage passwords for me, along with a lot of other secure data that I need in my life. 1Password doesn't only just create passwords for websites and hold passwords for apps, it also has its own secure vault where you can store confidential information that you don't want to share. It also takes a look at the websites in your 1Password vault and makes sure that those haven't been compromised outside of your control. It just manages the security for me. And one of the things I like most about 1Password is the 1Password for Families product. I signed up for a 1Password for Families subscription as soon as they announced them. It's been several years now, and I just love the way my family has adapted to it. With 1Password for Families, we have shared vaults. I have one that I just share with my wife where we keep things like banking logins and secure information like that. And then I have another one that I share with the whole family, my kids included. And that has things like some of the meal delivery services and the Netflix login and all the stuff that, as a family, we want to share with each other. I even keep the Wi-Fi password in there so they can easily have it, and if anything changes, they can easily find it. The benefit of this has been a couple things. The first is that my wife and my kids are more religious about good password practices now that they've got this tool. I showed them how to use it, and they're adding passwords in, with the app. So no longer are they using the dumb, one password that we all used to use, like Pencil, to get into all the websites and exposes you to getting hacked if any of the websites that you use it on get hacked. Now they make a strong, unique password at every website because they have the tool. The other thing that is a real benefit for me is that everything is in a shared vault as needed. So the other day when one of my kids yells to me across the house, hey, what's the Netflix password? I could say, hey, it's in the vault. And I don't have to go find it. They can just open their app and get it themselves. And if I change it in 6 months, they'll get that updated one in their vault as well. It just kind of solves the problem. And I really like the fact that, everybody's using good password habits and we don't have to like text message each other important passwords, which, kind of just puts that data out there. 1Password is the solution. They've got a big team that's constantly working to make the software better and more powerful for you. And I love having them at my back when it comes to security. You can get a 1Password for Families account as well. Just go to onepassword.com/MPU in all caps, and you get 20% off. And you let them know you heard about it here on the Mac Power Users. Thank you, 1Password, for all of your support of the Mac Power Users and your amazing software. Once again, that's onepassword.com/MPU in all caps.
So my next pick is a wallpaper app called Downlink. I first heard about this a year and a half ago or so when it was new. It's developed by just a single person. It's free, so definitely under the $30. And what this does is it's in your menu bar and it pulls real-time satellite imagery, downloads the image, and makes it your wallpaper. And there's a couple of different views. So this is from the GOES series of weather satellites. And I have mine set to see the southern, southeastern part of the US. So in my XDR, I can see the whole country, but Memphis, actually just the way the satellite is basically dead center. So I can see clouds and it's beautiful because it changes every 20 minutes. As I work into the evening, you can see darkness like come in from the right side of the screen and work its way over. And I've used it ever since it was in beta. I think I got an early build of it, and it's just a really cool wallpaper app. And so it just downloads these new images however often you tell it to, and it gets rid of the old ones. And you have kind of this live wallpaper effect that you can get in macOS. That's a default thing where, they have several ones that sort of change throughout the day, but you get it with like what's actually going on our planet. And I honestly love this little Mac app.
I already installed it and it's already running.
Nice. There's a good West Coast view, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great. And what's nice about this is so often actual space pictures are pretty poor resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you go to NASA and you download a bunch of images, a lot of times, because they've got to harden those cameras for space, it's a years long process, and you're not going to get like, you can go to Target and buy a camera sometimes with a better sensor than what they've got that they're launching, but this thing is, these are really nice looking pictures, very sharp. Well, I have a wallpaper app too, but I feel like you've just outdone me.
Go ahead. Go.
So I'll go ahead and do it.
It may
anyway.
not be everybody's jam.
Yeah. So there's one. It's got it's. We're gonna put a link in the show notes because it's kind of hard to find, but it's called Wallpaper and Background App.
Come on, that's a terrible name.
I know, right? But what it does is it makes very stylized color images. It reminds me kind of the old cat days when Apple would have interesting wallpapers.
Yeah.
It's definitely got a tiger vibe to me, but it's way more flexible where you can pick, it picks random color schemes, and it's got basic looks. Like if you want some colors at the bottom where your dock is, like on iOS devices, and it works for both Mac and iOS devices, or if you want like wavy colors or stripes, it's got a bunch of different looks, and the developers continues to add additional looks. And then you pick a look you like and just tap it until you get a color scheme you want, and they all look pretty nice. It's $2, it's just $2. And I've been using it for about 6 months now. I think I'm going to be using Stevens for a while, but when I get tired of it, I'll go back to this one. I've seen a lot of wallpaper apps over the years, and usually what they are is just a collection of images already available on the web somewhere that someone's put a web wrapper on, and they're not really customized. They don't really look that good. I mean, most wallpaper apps are garbage, but this one, because it generates a custom wallpaper, they're very sharp and they're very delightful to look at. So for $2, you can kind of switch through your look on your wallpapers.
Yeah, that's cool. And I imagine that these wallpapers like look good on iOS devices too. You could save them to the
Yeah, they
Photos
do.
app and sync
They
them
do.
over.
Yeah. Well, they also have a version
Oh, so you can just do
on
it right
mobile.
on your iPad or phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's cool.
Exactly.
Because I tend to like rather simple iOS wallpapers. I mean, on the Mac, it's like a map, right, with clouds and stuff. It couldn't be any busier. But on
Yeah.
iOS, because it's just a grid of icons, I tend to like either solid colors or gradients or something very simple. And so I could see
Yeah.
this being a nice fit there.
Yeah, like the way I use this on iOS is I will pick a colorful, kind of busy one for my unlock screen. And then I'll take the same image and just like zoom in until it's just one solid color on that palette and make that the desktop screen on iOS.
Yeah.
And it looks nice. Except they have one that's like formatted for having a dock at the bottom, and I'll use the entire wallpaper for that on the desktop. It looks nice.
Mm-hmm. Cool. My next one is from Flying Meat, and it's called Retro Batch. What this is, the easiest way to think about this is that it's Automator for your pictures. And so you can build these jobs dealing with metadata, file size, rotation, file conversion, whatever you need to do. Can build these jobs and then dump a folder of images onto RetroBatch, and it will process them all in bulk. And like Audio Hijack, it's all kind of built with these like drag and drop things, so you can see exactly what it's going to do and in what order. You could put some photos in there and say, I actually need two versions. Maybe I need a version for archiving. I want those to be high quality. Maybe I need a version to share online, so I want them much smaller. I want them in JPEG and not, something else. It's really cool. And anytime I shoot with my, sort of quote, big digital camera, retro batch is something that I will use to make sure that everything's rotated correctly. Any raw processing that I want to do that's the same across all of them, you can do in retro batch. It's just really, really cool. This was in beta a couple of years ago, but now it is out and about. Version 1.4 is the current version, supports Big Sur, supports Apple Silicon. It's really fast on an M1 Mac. It's just it's a really neat application if you deal with a lot of photos that you need to sort of batch process. The regular version is $29.99, so I squeezed it in. There is a pro version that's $50, but I think honestly most people can get by with the sort of standard. But I'll leave in the show notes their page showing the differences between the regular and pro version, so you can make up your mind.
Gus Mueller is the guy behind Flying Meat, and he is, I've met him several times with the various, WWDCs and things I've gone to. He is a very friendly guy and also just like wicked smart Apple developer, and particularly on the Mac. He really, I think, loves the Mac platform, supports it. And his website, Flying Meat, is one where you get really quality software at very reasonable prices. And since this is the Gus Mueller section of today's show, I have one of his apps too on my list. And he made a graphics app. It's called Acorn. It's now at version 6. Again, he's right in there. He priced it just for our show, I guess, because it's $29.99. But when you think about it, I mean, Adobe Photoshop, you have to pay a monthly subscription for. Um, Pixelmator, which I love, is quite a bit more for their pro version. I don't know what their standard version is these days. But Flying Meat makes a very usable graphics app for $30. And if you just work on, if you just need to do a Gaussian blur once in a while, this is probably the least expensive way to get an app on your Mac that's going to do stuff like that with little or no work, made by a developer who really understands the platform, and the app's going to be a solid player, not going to crash, and it's going to do what you ask of it. And Acorn, I actually have moved to Pixelmator because I really like the AI stuff they're doing. But I used Acorn for years. A lot of the edits I did for the field guides were done in Acorn, and it's just a great app. And it's under $30.
Yeah, Acorn is always on my list for new Mac users who, maybe they were doing a little photo editing in Windows, using some other application. And if you don't need Photoshop, and most people don't, this is a great alternative. There's a 14-day free trial, which is super cool. And like you said, it's just $30. It's no subscription. And supporting like an awesome indie developer. Gus is really great. And Acorn has been around a long time. He gets what it means to be a good Mac app. And yeah, Acorn is just fantastic. And just like RetroBatch, it's also really fast. It uses Metal, which is Apple's like GPU acceleration layer. And so any of the effects or filters you use, any of the editing tools you use, it's lightning quick.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of bigger players in this space, like when Apple comes out with a new feature, there's like meetings and committees and lots of thinking going on before they know whether they're going to adopt it. Whereas I'm pretty sure Gus Mueller leaves WWDC, goes back to his hotel room, downloads the latest Xcode, and just adds the feature. I mean, it's there on day one, and it always works because he's such a great Mac developer.
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna go next to an audio tool that I use, but kind of like Acorn, I think is a absolutely perfect alternative to a more sort of power user level tool. Like not everybody needs Logic or Audition, and this is Fission by Rogue Amoeba. It is, you can download it for free and check it out, and then to purchase it for a single Mac license again is $29. So I guess they got the message we were doing this, and it's great. So you can go in and you can do conversions between file formats. You can just use it to add chapters to something if you need to. You can cut out sections of audio. So I'm a little behind the scenes. On Mac Power users, we record the ads separately. So either before or after the show, I'll sit down, David sits down, and we record our ads. Very often one of us will, need to clear our throat or restart something. But when you're doing the full edit of the podcast, you can just do that as you edit. But the ads separately, I very often just open them in Fission, take the little section I need to cut out, and just Command X, it's gone, and resave the file in seconds. It's really, really great. You also have this really cool thing of file joining. So if you have more than one audio file you want in one longer file, you can just copy and paste them together. It's really great. It looks really good, as you may imagine from Rogue Amoeba. If you just have like weird little audio stuff you need to do sometimes, there's really no reason to spring for Logic or pay Adobe monthly for Audition if something like this can meet your needs.
And, I'm sorely tempted to, even though I have a Logic installation, I'm sorely tempted to try this for those ad reads and occasional drop-ins, because Logic I like to use when I make music, but every time I open it just to record myself, it's clearly not what the app was designed for.
Yeah.
And it's like you're bringing in an 800-pound gorilla to like open a peanut butter jar, and it just feels like it's almost overwhelming for those projects. And with all the audio stuff I'm using with my musical instruments, and it loads, it just fills memory.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should try this out. I've never used Fission, so you just say Command X to delete a selection?
Yeah, just like,
and does it close it up afterwards?
Yeah, it just stitches it together.
Oh yeah, because I can do that in Logic too, but I mean.
Yeah, but then you've got to
a beast.
Yeah, then you got to bounce it again and do all these things. And in my Logic, I have basically everything that you have on for music I have turned off. But it's still so heavy. What if all I need to do is like patch something up or just make little adjustments? I can do it way faster, and I get to use this really great looking app that is, Rogue Amoeba makes so many good audio apps. I think this one gets overlooked a little bit because some people use Audio Hijack for so many things. But again, if you just need a simple editor, it's a great one.
Yeah, I've done that with Audio Hijack, where I will record the ad. I have one of my Audio Hijack settings is what I call solo recording. It just takes my mic and saves it to a high definition audio file. And I'll just sit here and record the ad into Audio Hijack because Logic is such a beast.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, when I can clear out memory and things, I'll go in and edit the file in Logic. Let the record reflect Mr. Hackett just cost me $30 because I'm sure I'll end up buying it. All right. I have one here that comes up on the show pretty regularly, but if we did a 30 for 30 show and didn't talk about Bartender, I would lose my podcasting license.
Probably.
Bartender came out, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and they're now, I believe, version 4?
4, I think, is the new one.
Yeah, version 4. And the what the app does is it solves the problem we all had with the menu bar for so long. If you listen to MPU, you're trying out a lot of apps. It seems like all these apps want to stick something in your menu bar, and before long, you get to that point where you've got more in your menu bar than you have space for. This is particularly true if you're on a laptop. I mean, I remember sometimes I used to have to go, like Finder has a very small menu bar footprint. It only got like 4 words in the menu bar. So I'd have to go and open Finder so I could get to menu bar apps that were hidden behind like Microsoft Word menus. And Bartender solves all that for you. And the developer has really just been pouring it on the last few years with making the app better. The way it works fundamentally is you pick what's your kind of your primary menu bar and secondary, and then you can have the secondary one show up by clicking an icon in your menu bar and it exposes the rest of them. You can either have it slide to the left on the menu bar, or it can open a little floating window underneath with the additional ones on, so you don't have to worry about it sliding into your other, menu bar options. That's the feature he brought with version 4, by the way. He had it originally and now it's come back. But it's just ridiculously easy to use. One of the things he did with version 4 is he has these virtual menu bars, so you can just drag the menu bar items between, primary to secondary or to hidden. Historically, you used to have to go through and reset those manually with like a selection in each one. And every time I do a screencast for somebody, I have to like remove a bunch of stuff from my menu bar, and I would always use Bartender for that. But it was a huge pain because I had to go through each one and manually switch it, where now I can just drag them. It's so much easier. He's got a beta feature right now. It's not out yet, but I'm going to be covering it at MaxSparky once it's released, where he's added automation. So you can have a keyboard shortcut to activate a menu bar item, which may allow me to do to create a software-based mute button for my XLR microphone, which is just like a huge podcaster problem I've been trying to solve for years. But there's just like all these cool features he keeps adding. He is not resting on his laurels, but fundamentally, the app just does what it says on the tin. It allows you to manage the menu bar in a way that you want, and even with a big, iMac or XDR screen, you still don't want all that garbage in your menu bar. And using something like Bartender, you can really manage it better. I really like just seeing the data that I really need in the menu bar and, reducing the visual clutter. And it is now $15 to buy it. If you're a SetApp subscriber, it's part of SetApp. And man, I give this one 2 thumbs up.
Totally. I even on my XDR, I run it. All I have visible is date, time, Siri, control center, volume, media playback, time machine. So those are all Apple ones. The only 2 third-party menu bar items I show are Dropbox and Carrot Weather. Everything else, 1, 2, I don't know, there's like a dozen things in here, are behind menu bar or behind Bartender, excuse me, because I don't want to see them. And I can go up to it, and I can get to them very easily. And again, you can customize how it all works, but I've used this since it showed up. I was so glad that it got a revision for Big Sur. My understanding is that Big Sur really changed the way this has to work. And so this wasn't any small task, but I'm so glad it was undertaken because I don't want to run a Mac without it.
Yeah. One of the menu bar apps I use that I really like is Fantastical. If you go into the appearance setting for Fantastical, you can have it display the next event and how long until the next event. And because I block schedule so much, it's great. I can always just look at my menu bar and know what I'm up to next. There's some third-party apps where there's like Meeting Bar. Maybe I'll do a post on it in MaxSparky, but it's just there's a lot of ways to do this. But having your next appointment in your menu bar, which you can do once you clear it out with Bartender, so you don't have all the other garbage up there, I find that a very useful menu bar bit of text.
This episode of MPU is brought to you by Indeed. Indeed is the #1 job site in the world, with more total visits than any other job site according to ComScore. Hiring is one of those things you don't want to mess up. You need to hire great people if you want to take your entire business to the next level. And with stakes this high, there's only one choice: Indeed. Now, let me tell you why. Indeed.com is the hiring site that helps you find quality candidates with Indeed Instant Match. Indeed searches through millions of resumes in their database to help show you great candidates instantly, so you can do the part that you really need to do faster: meeting and hiring great people. Unlike some hiring sites, Indeed gives you full control and payment flexibility, delivering a quality short list faster. With Indeed, there are no long-term contracts. You can pause your account at any time, and you only pay for what you need. With Instant Match, you see a list of great candidates right away. Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest. So, if you want your quality short list and you want it fast, you need Indeed. Right now, listeners of MPU get a free $75 credit to upgrade their job post at Indeed.com/MPU. This is Indeed's best offer available anywhere. So get a free $75 credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/MPU. One last time, that's Indeed.com/MPU. This offer is valid through March 31st. Terms and conditions apply. Our thanks to Indeed for their support of the show and Relay FM.
Another one I'll have, it's kind of a productivity related one, is Tomato 2. It's a Pomodoro timer. And, Pomodoro timers are the productivity tool that everybody discovers and thinks that, it's always a hallelujah moment once they find Pomodoro timers. And the technique, I think it was an Italian guy who used a kitchen timer that looked like a tomato, and that's how it got started. But it is, you set a timer for a set amount of time. A very common one is 25 minutes. And you say, I'm going to focus on this one problem for 25 minutes, and I'm going to give myself a 5-minute break and then start again. And each round is like another Pomodoro. And because in the modern world, we're so distracted and there's so many ways for the world to interrupt us, getting those 25-minute reps in can really help you be focused and get more work done. And it feels like a superpower is unlocked when you do it if you've never tried it before. But you could do it with the timer on your watch. You could do it with an actual kitchen timer. But this Tomato 2 is a Pomodoro timer that is just really well made. And, if getting a nice little app, it's not very expensive, and putting it up on your Mac to kind of help you with that process, then this is the one I would recommend.
It looks really nice too.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a timer, really, but I do like the way it does reps for you and keeps track, and you can customize it. I usually do 50-minute reps. I'll do it, try and focus for 50 minutes and take 10 minutes off. And if I ever find myself stuck or not getting work done, I'll resort. It's like the, in case of emergency, break glass tool for productivity nerds.
All right. Up next for me is another customize your Mac, make it work better for you type tool, and that is Moom. This is another one that's been around a long time. Moom, by the developer Minitrix. It's just $5, and it is sort of fast and simple window management. macOS comes with all of these things to use split screen and mission control and expose and all of this stuff, but it still lacks some of the simpler things that maybe you find, for instance, in Windows with their snapping feature. And so what Moom does is it lets you very quickly put an app left, right, or center. You can also tile it really easily. It has this grid mode, so you can draw basically a square or rectangle, and it forces the app into that square or rectangle. So this all kind of lives on top of what Apple does. And it's fantastic. And like Bartender, anytime there's an OS release, stuff like this, you have to wonder about. But they're ready for Big Sur, and they're ready for M1. And it's it's fantastic. Another tool that I've used for a long, long time.
Yeah, and I do the stuff with Keyboard Maestro because
Yes.
I've got it more customized, but Moom is absolutely the simple pick for this. And another feature they have, Steven didn't mention, that I really like is you can set up a a set of apps together in a certain format on your screen and save that as a template. Like on that big XDR screen, Steven, you could have like save all your podcast apps exactly how you want them and save it as a template, and then you just press the button and it auto, arranges those apps into that format whenever you press that button.
Yeah. It's great. And it's one of those things that, like, the way they did it makes so much sense. And with Keyboard Maestro, there's like I said, there's more power there. There's also better snap tool from the folks at Better Touch Tool, but I think Moom is maybe the easiest to get started with.
That's the Goldilocks, man. It's right in the middle because Keyboard Maestro, you have to write scripts to make it work,
Yeah.
and that takes time. And you can do more with them. Like you can have it, select menus in the apps after they're open and things like that. But Moom has, for almost no time investment, you can very much customize it. And again, the app's been around forever and it just works. I was surprised when you said it's $5. I would have assumed it cost more than that.
I was actually really surprised when I went to their website. I was like, oh, this should be more than this. You should charge more.
Yeah. A utility that I love, and we've mentioned this on the Mac Power Users before, is Bajango's iStat menus.
Oh, such a good one.
Yeah, and people are mixed on this one. Some people think it's data overload. I think it's great. It pairs nicely with Bartender. But what it does is it puts a list of tools in your menu bar that shows you how fast are your fans going, what's the temperature, what's the status of your drive, how are your processors pegged, like all the nerdy little details about your Mac that you want to know. And for a single license, it's $12, or for a family pack, it's $15. It's another one where I'm like, how is this only $12?
Yeah.
It started out as a what was the thing when you went to the left screen? What they called widgets? What did they call those on the Mac originally?
Dashboard.
Dashboard. Yes, started out there, and it's kind of evolved over the years. But the best version is this menu bar one. You buy the primary one from Bajango.com. Again, it's part of Setup. If you're Setup, you get it free with your Setup subscription. And I put it in Bartender. I don't think I mentioned Bartender is also in Setup, but so I put it in Bartender. So when I activate the Bartender window, I can get the full dashboard on my Mac, and I don't need to see it there 24/7. But occasionally, maybe something's running slow or my internet seems slow, and I can get a lot of data very quickly with the iStat menu.
Yeah. When I first got my Mac Pro, I had it running on the CPU meter. I was be like, can I make it max out? I was like, what can
Yeah.
I do to make this computer work hard? If you weren't around for the dashboard era, or you just want to relive it, I have a link in the show notes. I did this big history thing on it several years ago, so you can go read about it and see screenshots and stuff. It was a different time.
I was just talking to somebody recently. I would like to see the dashboard come back, but I would like to see it on my primary Mac screen, just like we're getting widgets on the iPhone and iPad.
So you could like just have widgets just
Yeah.
somewhere on your desktop.
Yeah, exactly. Why not have the carrot weather widget on the desktop of my Mac, and I can put it anywhere I want? Or, my OmniFocus, you know, primary task list, or maybe some of my, dashboard widgets from iStat menu. I just feel like the time for that has come back, and it just needs to be turned on. It doesn't need to be mandatory, but just like I would hope we're going to get something like that on the iPad, I would like to see that on my Mac as well.
Yeah, it's a great
We've
idea.
already got it on the iPhone,
Yeah, put it everywhere, Apple. Let's do it.
I mean, but don't make me swipe screens. Just let me put it on my home screen. I'm okay. I could put it around the planet Earth here that Steven has just installed on my computer.
They could be like little barges out in the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. But I just, I feel like hopefully this last year they got the message that people want to customize their stuff.
Yeah.
and and I understand I can put them on the slide over. Now the modern version of this is the slide over. It was called the Today View, but I don't know what it's called on the Mac
Yeah, it's
now.
weird because it combines widgets and notifications and like
Yeah,
neither have enough room. It's not great.
yeah. But I mean, what if I wanted to put my world clock right on my home screen so I could just see any time of day? I could see what time it is in Memphis, and so I just really I like it on the phone, and I just want more. And I feel like the Mac would be a natural spot for us to be able to set these things on the screen. But that was a little bit of a rant, so I'll stop.
No, I like it. I'm gonna pick a nerdy one here.
All
Can
right.
I get nerdy for a second?
I just talked about iStat menus, man.
Well, I'm gonna talk about an app called Discovery. It used to be
Okay.
called Bonjour Browser. That's what most people may remember it as. This is an app written by Lily Ballard, and it is just a single window. And all it does is it shows you what's on your local area network via Bonjour, which is Apple's zero config, set up a printer, set up HomeKit, whatever.
Modern Apple Talk.
Yes, but it works,
Yeah.
unlike Apple Talk. It is really, really helpful if you are trying to troubleshoot network stuff, especially if you help other people. Like I know what's on my network, right? But in the before time when I had people like clients, I would go help with their stuff. Like, well, why can't I find this? And maybe system preferences couldn't find it, but maybe Discovery would tell me more about it. So like right now I have it open. I can see all of the computers on here. So I could go to, the Mac Mini under the TV, and I can see its IP address, and I can see all sorts of information about it. It's one of those utilities that I don't need very often, but when I do, it is what saves the day. Told you, nerdy.
Yeah. So give me an example of a problem you solved with this.
So I think a printer that's not showing up in system preferences is probably the most common one that I've used this for. A printer that's supposed to support Bonjour, and for some reason you go into the preference pane, you go to add the printer, and it can't find it. This could tell you if it is actually on the network or not. And if Discovery sees it and system preferences doesn't, maybe you need to drop off the network and reconnect to it, or restart the printer, or restart the router. It's really just can be helpful in finding things that are supposed to show up. It's also useful if you have IP collisions. So if you have the thing where you start up your Mac, it's like, oh, this IP address was already in use, or this name was already in use. It can help you chase those things down too.
What about that issue with our Macs where I'm starting to see it with one of mine where it says, "Oh, this is already on the network, so I'm going to name this MacBook 2,"
Yeah, that seems to be back. That was a real big problem a few years ago. I actually noticed it on my network recently. The Mac Mini under our television, its share name is called DVD. It's like,
Yeah.
it kind of made me laugh because that's mostly what we use it for now. And it used to be like my home server, but now I have all my storage internal to the Mac Pro. So it's basically just a fancy DVD player. And I was in Finder on my laptop. I was like, why is it DVD parentheses 3? I was like, oh
Yeah.
no, it's back. So I went and changed the name. Yeah, that bug seemed to have creeped back into Big Sur somewhere. I don't think it's an M1 issue. I think it's a Big Sur issue because that Mac Mini is Intel.
Well, Discovery DNS browser, I'm downloading it. I didn't know this one, so thanks.
Yeah,
I've been nerdy pick.
I was happy to bring some nerdery to this list.
Yeah, well, I do think that like that printer problem is a great one because like you don't know whether the problem is the printer's not on the network or if it is on the network and for whatever reason it's still not connecting to your Mac.
Yeah,
and that's a good piece of information to add to it. Well, I spend a lot of time with PDFs. PDF apps are actually quite expensive, but there are a couple that fall in the 30 and 30 range that I wanted to talk about. One of them I brought up when I talked about the paperless field guide. This is the one I said had no business being in the paperless field guide, but it's such an interesting app. It's called Liquid Text. And it is a PDF app made that is not supposed to, simulate the real world. Most PDF apps want to simulate a printed piece of paper. They have a tool that looks like a highlighter. They have a tool that looks like a pen. And everything that you used to do with printed out pieces of paper, you can do digitally with a PDF app. And that's the common model. But um, Liquid Text allows you to create virtual links between text. It allows you to carve out pieces and pull them on the side and make notes on them. It's very much a digital, like it's a digital premise for managing PDF files. I've heard from a lot of people who bought the paperless field guide who are like in academia and who are students who are really digging this app for research papers because it allows them to kind of digest them in a different way. Well, it's $30. It's free to download, but to get the upgraded version with all the bells and whistles, it's $29.99. So that one fits.
Yeah. Yeah. Liquid Text it's one of those apps that's hard to talk about until you download and use it. You're like, oh, goodness, this is really cool.
I was at WWDC years ago, and some guy, strange guy, just walked up to me and said, "Hey, thanks so much about talking about liquid text." He was a student researcher at some university. I don't remember which one it was, and he did the research on how we like process text and came up with the idea for liquid text as a graduate paper, and then he turned it into an app. And it turned out to be the developer of liquid text, but he really tried to come at it from a different angle. And I love that when people say, okay, now we're on digital. How can we make it better for digital?
That's cool.
Yeah.
You have another PDF app in here, though, we should talk about too.
Yeah, I'm going to knock two out here.
Okay.
The other one is the only one that I would recommend that's under $30. And this is a more traditional one, kind of like I was talking about earlier. It's got all the highlight tools and whatnot. But PDF Viewer it is a subscription at $19.99 a year, but it's a very good and solid app for $20 if you're not getting what you need from Preview and you want to bring in something like this. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles you get with something like PDF Pen or Adobe. It doesn't have OCR, but it does have the ability to redact, and it has some of the tools, but not all of the tools. But it's very reasonably priced. PDF Viewer.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like Moom. It's the Goldilocks PDF app. If Preview is not enough, but you don't need PDF Pen or just want to spend less, honestly, PDF Viewer is like right there in the middle.
Yeah.
That's good. Those are good picks there. I'm going to go next with a Better Finder rename. So this is an application that, again, sort of takes what Apple has in the system and expands on it. So if you have a file or a bunch of files in Finder, you can right click and hit rename. And those options are relatively straightforward, but it may not give you all the power that you need. It has some things where you can append and prepend and those sorts of things. But if you really want to, say, use a piece of metadata and insert that into the file name, or you want to very quickly iterate a file name, so like file 1, file 2, file 3, something like that. If you want to build multiple steps, just like we talked about RetroBatch a few minutes ago, and have a multi-step plan to rename your files. If you want to save jobs and come back to them later, a Better Finder renames up to version 11. It's the tool for you. This is fantastic. I used to use this a lot more. I use it less now, but when my last job before Relay, I was at a advertising kind of media firm. We built websites and branding stuff for companies. And at the end of the job, I would very often need to send a client, a bunch of images or a bunch of files or something. And I would use a Better Finder rename to make all of that organized and like structured file names, and then, zip them up and send them on to the client. So it can be great for bulk renaming if you're handing things off to somebody else. That was my primary use of it, but I keep it around. I still use it today. But it is it's a lot more powerful than what Finder just has built in.
Yeah, I have an interesting journey with this app because I've known it's been out there for a long time, but because I thought I was too fancy, I would write like individualized Apple scripts to do file renaming and things like that. But as a lawyer, I'm always like producing piles of documents and things to people. And I was doing a lot. My Apple scripts kept breaking. And one day, like I saw it came through my email, this was on sale or something. So I just bought it. And like within 10 minutes, I was like, I am such an idiot for not having bought this 10 years ago. I don't know what I was thinking because it is so much faster and easier to do bulk renaming. It may be an app you only need once or twice a year, but when you do have it, you're going to love it. I'm glad you added this one to the list.
Yeah, it's definitely sort of in the Mac power users tool belt for me.
Yeah, definitely. A recent one we talked about on the show, so I won't go to it in great length, is Card Hop. But it is a significant improvement on the address book, especially for just like adding things and manipulating and moving among your contact data. It's $19.99 in the Mac App Store, and go back and listen to the show we did recently on calendars, contacts, and tasks to get a much more detailed description. But I had to use. I was on my wife's computer and I had to use her contacts app the other day, and it felt like someone had tied one of my hands behind my back because I'm so used to how fast this stuff is with CardHop.
The built-in contact app is definitely made for light use, I think is what I would say. It is. It's not nearly as fast to do stuff as CardHop is. Plus, it has a fun icon. It's a sandwich with a bite taken out of it. How could you be mad?
This episode of the Mac Power Users is brought to you by Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com/MPU and make your next move. Enter offer code MPU at checkout to get 10% off your first purchase. Whether you're having a baby or starting a business, you need a presence on the internet. And you shouldn't have that presence be on somebody else's platform. Instead, you should build your own website to do that. Now, historically, the problem is nobody wants to build a website. It's expensive, it's hard to figure out, and it's got a lot of pieces to it that you don't necessarily want to manage. Squarespace takes care of all of that for you. Squarespace lets you easily create a website for your next idea with a unique domain, award-winning templates, and more. Maybe you want to create an online store or a portfolio or a blog. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that lets you do just that. There's nothing to install, no patches to worry about, and no upgrades needed. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Squarespace just covers it for you. They have award-winning 24/7 customer support if you need any help. They let you quickly and easily grab a unique domain name, and all of those award-winning templates are beautifully designed for you to show off your great ideas. My most important presence on the internet is MacSparky. It's the source for my field guides and my podcasts and my thoughts on technology. It's where I publish. And years ago, I decided to move that to Squarespace. It's always a little scary when you're picking a platform for something so important, but I've had no problems with Squarespace. Like I said, I've been with them for years. They always support me and they keep the website going. Before that, I had tried to roll my own, and the problem was I spent so much time managing it and managing it poorly. Now I don't have to worry about it. Squarespace just handles it for me, and it's ridiculously affordable. Squarespace plans start at just $12 a month, but you can start a trial with no credit card required by going to squarespace.com/MPU. When you decide to sign up, use the offer code MPU to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain, and to show your support for the Mac Power Users. Once again, that's squarespace.com/MPU and the code MPU to get 10% off your first purchase. We thank Squarespace for their support of the Mac Power Users and all of Relay FM. Squarespace, make your next move, make your next website.
Up next, I want to bring attention to an app called Rocket. If you've used Slack or Discord or other tools like that that have emoji in them, a lot of those apps, you can type a colon and then start typing the name of the emoji, and it will autofill to the smiley face or the thumbs up or whatever it is. And on the Mac, emoji is a little bit harder to get to. Even with the touch bar, it's a lot of swiping. The emoji input palette on macOS is not fantastic. And so what Rocket does is it basically, I think about it as text expander for your emoji, because you can use the colon basically in any text field and start typing, get a little pop over where you are, pick the emoji that you want, hit enter, and it just goes right in line. Something I use all the time, something that without this, my computer feels broken because, I send some emoji. What can I say? And Rocket is cool because it is a free app written by Matthew Palmer. It also has some other stuff, and you can buy a pro version for $10. It gives you like some fun emoji stats, which you can see like which emoji you use the most. You can insert GIFs and images with it. It kind of does some other stuff, but for the emoji typing, a free app that sits in your menu bar is pretty fun.
So, Steven, which emoji do you use the most? I'm sure you have the pro version.
Let's see. Let me look. I think I know what it is, but yes, it is the orange heart. It's the most commonly used.
What does the orange heart mean to you?
It's just like my sort of thumbs up sort of version. I like orange.
Gotcha. Yeah, because you send that to me, I feel like, I'm never going to get the red heart. I'm never going to earn it, but
Just
I'll
orange.
get the orange one.
Just orange. Yeah. And after that, it's thumbs up and then the little guy with his head exploding. Those are my top 3.
Okay. I feel like mine is probably the hang loose symbol, but I don't know. I also think that, I don't discriminate. I send the red heart to everybody. So I love everybody.
Yeah.
The one I would use the most though is what do you call that? Where you the sticker packs? They have a special name for it. The stickers, right? The sticker from the Star Wars one with BB-8 with this little light giving the thumbs up.
Yes,
that is by far the one I use the most.
That is a good one.
Yeah. All right. This is a cool app. A couple here I've got. One of them, since I already talked about one calculator, I'm going to talk about another one, and that is pCalc. Comes up on the show quite often, but it is the most actively developed calculator in the history of mankind. They've got he has versions for Mac, iPhone, iPad, Apple TV. He's probably already working on a version for Apple augmented reality glasses.
James will be there when that time comes.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had the developer, James Thompson, on the show a year or two ago. A wonderful guy with many funny stories from the times he worked at Apple. But the bottom line is it's just a killer calculator. There's a young man in my family who's getting ready to start engineering school, and I turned him on to pCalc, and he wrote me back. He's like, "Oh, this is amazing. I'm going to use this all the time in school."
That's cool.
Yeah. But it does financial stuff. It does everything.
Mm-hmm.
It really is the calculator to get.
Yeah. And I don't know when it got added, but there is a menu bar widget with the whole little calculator in it. So you can just have it if your work is the type of thing where you just need to quickly, like sort of a scratch calculator, the menu bar app is a great addition.
Yeah.
See what I did? I said addition, talking about a calculator.
Oh man, that's great.
Good, right?
That's great. And I love that, like, he just never stops making it better. It's like, I feel like the last time anyone at Apple worked on the Apple calculator was maybe the Mac SE, it feels like. Where this is like this thing, like he is the customization features. You can change the layout of the keyboard. Like, whatever it is you want to do, James has covered it, and he's probably got a list of 10 more things he's going to add in the next year. I really am a fan of these developers who kind of fall in love with their apps and do nothing but just keep making them better.
One for me that has really, I feel like I've just scratched the surface of this, but is something that I think has a bright future ahead of it, not only as an application, but also just for me, is this Mac app called Service Station. I came across this first through a blog post over on 6colors, and I'll have that in the show notes. Service Station lets you customize the contextual menu in Finder. So you can do things like right-click on a folder and launch terminal at that location. The thing that I'm using it most for is, that goofy open in menu. So like if you right click on a PNG and mine is like open with Preview, Illustrator, Photoshop, Color Sync, DevonThink.
A list of like 50 apps.
Yeah. OCR Kit, PDF Pen Pro, all these things. Very often, I only need to choose from 2. I'm not going to open a PNG in Firefox. So with Service Station, you can customize what shows up there. And so instead of that, you could just say, just show me preview in Photoshop. I have this with audio files as well, just open in Audition, basically, and Fission, and not show me all the other things that can open audio file. I don't want to open an audio file in Microsoft Edge. And so it's
Yeah.
really cleaned that up for me. You can also use it as a way to launch scripts. It can do a whole bunch of stuff. And I like this because it makes the everyday usability of Finder a little bit better, because that open with menu is basically useless. And it's been better in recent years, but in years past, it would like start duplicating your applications or not show new applications you installed. You have to go troubleshoot it. I basically just ignore that open with menu now, and I'm just using Service Station. And it's free with a $15 in-app purchase. So well underneath the $30 budget.
Yeah, and this is a very aspirational app because you can go really deep down the rabbit hole like this. If you like to write Apple scripts, you can embed them into Service Station. It just, I don't know, it is really clever app. And if you tried it when it initially launched, I was having some stability issues, but all those are gone now. It just works. And so if you tried it at the beginning and you weren't sure, I would recommend go back, give it another shot.
Yeah, it's been solid for me.
Yeah. Good one. That's a good pick. What I've got here that I am admittedly, I think, stretching the limitations of our picks here, but drafts, and I won't go into it in great length. We talk about it all the time, but drafts continues to be one of the best utilities on your Mac or iOS device for text. A subscription, drafts is free, so you don't have to pay for it, and all the built-in actions are probably enough for a lot of people. If you want to have custom actions and do more with it, a subscription is $29.99. So I feel like I technically fit within, but I just, so many times a day, I open drafts to write a quick bit of text that I'm going to put into an email or save to something else, or even, put it into Microsoft Word. But just having a no frills text editor that is available to me and has all those automation tools built in, I don't know what I'd do without it.
Yeah, drafts is a Hall of Famer for sure. Another Hall of Famer is, of course, Better Touch Tool, because it turns your input devices, trackpads, mice, touch bar, the Siri Apple remote, if you want to use that, turns those into triggers for automations. We talked about this in depth on MPU 532, so you can go check that out if you want to hear more. But it is, I think, especially for the touch bar, just an excellent choice, because you can really customize that thing and surface tools that you want to use and have them available to you all the time. And I know on my MacBook Pro, I've got several things. I've got some sort of funny buttons. I've got one that says the word hot dog because it made my kids laugh. But then I have also have buttons to fire Keyboard Maestro macros to open folders of web pages and do various things on my system. And it is yet another of these applications. It's like, I don't understand how this is only $8.50 for a standard license. I don't understand. You can get a lifetime license for $20. It's also part of SetApp. And especially I think if you have a touch bar Mac and you want to get more out of it, Better Touch Tools is totally the way to go.
Yeah, but I would say that goes beyond the touch bar Mac, like anything with a trackpad. Like you can have force click on the bottom left of your trackpad to move a window or, change a setup. And with any mouse setup, it's the same thing. The developer in the last year, I believe, quit his job to make this a full-time thing for him. So sending a little money his way and helping support him, I think is great for the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
I've certainly sent him plenty of money. And I'm all in. And like he just added a feature. I talked in the Keyboard Maestro Field Guide about what I call the hyper key. Brett Terpstra was the original one who had the idea for this, of mapping the caps lock key to be Shift, Command, Option, Control. Which is kind of hard to press that with. It's a 4-finger modifier key in essence. And then if you map that to caps lock, then you say caps lock plus A is the equivalent of Shift Command Option Control A. And suddenly you just opened up a whole new series of keyboard shortcuts on your Mac. And historically, the way to do this was through an app called Carabiner Elements, which was very hacky and it was very powerful and amazing. But with the most recent release of Big Sur, it's a questionable whether that's going to even be able to work anymore because
Yeah.
of the security stuff. But he figured a way to put this in Better Touch Tool. So you can create your own hyperkey in Better Touch Tool. I just did a blog post about it. We'll put a link in the show notes. And a bunch of people have got on board with this. I even got an email from Jason Snell saying, "Oh man, this is a game changer for me," because all of a sudden you've got all these additional keyboard shortcuts, and that's just one more benefit from this. What is it? $10 app?
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome how
Crazy.
it's continued to be developed. And yeah, things like the hyperkey just make so much sense in this context. So I also was really
Yeah.
glad to see that addition. And I think Jason's right. It is a game changer. This episode of Mac Power Users is brought to you by Pingdom. Today's internet users expect a fast web experience. No matter how good your content is or your marketing may be, they're going to bounce if your website is loading too slowly. With real user monitoring from Pingdom, you can discover how website performance issues are affecting your visitors' experiences so you can take action before your business is impacted. How your visitors experience your website differs depending on the browser, device, and platform they're using. So you want to identify how visitors are experiencing your website so you can make informed optimizations and deliver great performance to those who matter most. Real user monitoring is an event-based solution, so it's built to scale. That means you can monitor millions of page views without compromising your historical data or breaking the bank in the process. Get live visitor insights today with real user monitoring from Pingdom. Go to pingdom.com/relayfm right now for a free 30-day trial with no credit card required. And when you sign up, use the code MPU at checkout to get an awesome 30% off your first invoice. Our thanks to Pingdom from SolarWinds for their support of Mac Power Users.
Okay. One that is a new app. Well, actually, I'm going to say that one for last. Deliveries is another one. This is a subscription app, but it's just $5 a year. People get it. I think a lot of people get it on their phones, and it's the app that very easily tracks deliveries for you. So if you've got an Amazon purchase or something fun coming from Apple, it'll tell you where it is. You can watch it leave China and make its way. I never understood this. I'm not a navigator. It goes to Alaska, then it goes to like the East Coast, and then it comes to me. Don't know why it has to go all there first, but whatever. But you see all that stuff in deliveries, and their Mac app, the Mac is where they started. They were another dashboard, um, a little widget app that they had that they've turned it into a business. And for $5 a year, you can track all your packages, and it looks great on the Mac.
Yeah, I've got it on the Mac and my iPhone. This is another app where the widget's really nice. On my phone, I don't have the icon on a home screen, but I have the widget in the Today view. And if I don't have
Yeah.
anything coming, it just says, you have no local deliveries.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's awesome. And it works with, I think, any shipping company I've ever come across, including like weird
Yeah.
ones for work stuff. It's great. And I think that this app being a subscription, some people weren't in love with that move, but I think the developers done a good job at migrating to it. And I was happy to pay for it because I use it all the time. And it's one of those things that, yeah, like you can just keep the emails around, like click the links or make bookmarks. Like why? Like just you can stick it on this app and it can just tell you when things are on the way. So it's awesome.
And like the logic of the app recognizes the number format. So like if I just copied a DHL number off the website and put it in the app, and delivery's like, oh, this looks like a DHL number. Is this DHL? It's just like it figured it out for me. And it's definitely worth $5 a year to have that. And you can like get the full notifications on your watch and go like all the way down the rabbit hole with this stuff if you want. but they have a nice Mac app.
So I've got a couple more what I would call menu bar utilities that basically just live there. One is old and one is new. So I'm going to start with the old one. It's called Mountain, and like you look at the website, you think this may not work. It does still work. Still works for me. I use it. I use it to this day. And what this does is it gives you a menu bar item to mount and eject volumes. And so if you have a machine with external drives or like me with additional internal drives, you can set up all of these rules and these ways to manage those volumes. And so, for instance, you can eject and then automatically remount an external volume without having to dig around for a USB cable. You can set auto mounting and eject rules. So, say that before the system goes to sleep, eject these volumes or keep this volume from automatically mounting when I start my machine up. So, my internal backup drive in my tower, I don't want that mounted in Finder. So Mountain just says, "Hey, you're not allowed to show up in Finder," and then Carbon Copy Cloner can go and fetch it when it needs it, and then it ejects it when it's done. So lots of fiddly little rules and things you can set up around this, and it's been great. And it's like I said, it looks old, and I definitely sometimes worry about its future. But for now, at least, it seems like it's still working.
I feel like this app is like cross some sort of divide where even though it looks old, it's going to outlast maybe every other app we talked about today. Because every time I thought it was going to die, it just kept working.
Mm-hmm. I want to partner it with a relatively newcomer, and this is version 2 of AirBuddy, written by Guy Rambo. This is a utility that lets you manage AirPods and Apple's other wireless headphones from the menu bar. You know, Apple has this like built-in switching that kind of works and kind of doesn't. So with AirBuddy, you can just like open the AirPods case and you get its status and you can click on it to connect. You can also see the battery level of all of your devices. You can set it up a function called Magic Handoff. And so you can use a Magic Mouse keyboard or Magic Trackpad across multiple machines because it's like doing all this cool Bluetooth stuff. And because all good nerdy utilities should have stats, it has stats. So you can see how much time you spent listening to your AirPods or AirPods Pro or whatever it may be. And that's really helpful if you think like the battery's starting to go out on your AirPods. Like I'm starting to suspect my AirPods 2 are definitely getting less battery life than they used to. I can actually look in the stats and say, oh yeah, this is dropping. And Guy is really working on this and adding more features to it. There's more stuff coming with touch bar support and some other things. But AirBuddy is a really cool little utility. Sits up in your menu bar and it just, again, makes life on the Mac a little bit easier.
See, I didn't know if this was worth the trouble. I saw he came out with version 2, but I was thinking that he'd largely been Sherlocked by the menu bar switching in Big Sur. Is that no? I mean, is it that much better than the built-in stuff?
I think it is. I mean, there's definitely more overlap in Big Sur than there was in previous versions of macOS. I think that's why he's working on adding these other features. But if anything, it is more responsive and quicker where it overlaps with Apple stuff. And so I think it's totally worth a shot if you find yourself frustrated by Apple's management or you want some of the other things that it offers above what Apple does.
Yeah, the problem I have with Apple's stuff is sometimes it seems like it just isn't connecting. But I think I'm hitting a bit of a Bluetooth bug with my M1 MacBook where it's just not seeing them. And I'm not sure that's necessarily the Mac's fault. Or it is the Mac's fault, but it's not the
Software.
the menu bar app's fault.
Yeah, there've been reports of Bluetooth issues on M1 machines. I know Mike Hurley's had some of those. They had a macOS update that was supposed to iron some of them out, but it seems like there's still some of those bugs kicking around.
Yeah. I only have one left, but I'm going to go ahead and pick that now. And that is the app that I just continue to fall in love with this year. It's Obsidian. There's no reason I should love Obsidian. It's an Electron app. I mean, I've never like wanted Electron apps on my Mac, but it really is a good player. I mean, it incorporates a lot of the typical Mac, short keyboard shortcuts. The developers are trying to make it a good Mac experience, even though it's Electron. And if you don't know what Electron is, that's like a development platform that allows you to release an app on multiple platforms. So it's not necessarily a native app, I guess would be the way to explain it. You don't get a lot of the usual things like dictation tools sometimes don't work inside Obsidian because it's not a native app and it doesn't know how to work in the Electron window.
Mm-hmm.
But all that being said, these guys put out updates for this app like a couple a week with new features. It's absolutely stable. It has a third-party plugin format now where you can add third-party plugins, and there's a bunch of third-party developers making interesting plugins for it. They're on their roadmap. They're very close to releasing mobile apps, so your data will be available on mobile. One of my big concerns about this type of personal knowledge management stuff is owning my data. And unlike every other app I've tried in this space, they have an end-to-end encryption solution. So I have my own password that encrypts my data before it goes up. It just really scratches all the itches for me. And fundamentally, it's a document-based model, so everything is just a markdown file. It's easy to write in it, and I own all the data locally on my Mac. I just continue. I use it all the time, all the day, every day. And at some point, we'll do a show on it or something along those lines, so I can explain further. But it ties in really nicely with all the contextual computing stuff I do because it holds and shares links very easily. Like just as an example, for a client matter, I'll have a Obsidian note with it, but in there I'll have a link to the OmniFocus project and to the website and to individual documents on my drive and all these other things that I've done where I can jump around my computer contextually using Obsidian as like the home base. And it works great. And I can even make URLs to Obsidian markdown files. So in the project on OmniFocus, if I'm in OmniFocus, I can click one button and be in the Obsidian note. So it's just, I just can't get over how much I really like this app. And I just have so much respect for the developers that have worked so hard on it. Because the first time I looked at it, I thought it was a non-starter. And over the course of about 6 months, they turned it into an absolute powerhouse. So, and it's free. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
If you're using it personally, it's free. If you're using it commercially, it's $50. But I think this qualifies for a pick because for a lot of people, like if you're a student or using it for research or whatever, as I understand their license model, it's free. If you give them $25, you get in on the beta builds, which is absolutely worth it if you're a nerd. And then they have additional add-ons you can buy. Like I pay for the end-to-end encryption, but you don't have to. And so it's just really it's something else. And there's a lot of apps in this space right now, and who knows where we'll stand in a year. But right now, Obsidian is quite remarkable and absolutely fits within the parameters of $30.
It's been amazing to see how quickly they've iterated on it. It's really impressive. So I've got 3 left. You somehow got way ahead of me, but this will round us out. So I'll take us home.
Well, I could take one if you need a break. One of yours would have been on my list if you hadn't got it.
Okay. Which one do you want to take from me?
The first one.
Okay.
I'll do it out. You go, and then I'll do that one.
Okay. So I will pick another Markdown text app. It's very different from Obsidian, but it's one that I've talked about on this show and other shows, and I think it's one of those apps that either you get it and like it, or you think it's really dumb. That's fine. But it's Taught by the Icon Factory, and all it is 7 Markdown documents. They're colored, so you get like yellow, orange, red, purple, blue, teal, and green. And it's a free Mac app, Markdown goodness, and it syncs with iOS. It's free on the Mac. It's $20 on iOS. It's a weird business model, but it has become my little scratch pad. And so as we're recording this, I'm taking my edit notes in Taught, because it's just this little Markdown editor that I always have with me wherever I go. Even though I have Notes and Craft and DevonThink and all these other tools, for short little just I need it out of my brain typed onto an electronic device, Tot has totally taken that over for me, really since it came out. And I've been really happy with it. Syncs over iCloud. I've not had any issues with the sync, but it is one of those apps that it is so simple. Like if you had a sync issue, like there's no, as far as I can tell, there's like no recycling bin. Like if your document is empty, your document is empty. Now you can save backups and then restore those backups. So if you had something really important in the Mac app, you could save a backup and have it on your disk somewhere. But I haven't had any sync issues with it. I've got stuff in here that lives here all the time, and then about half of the little dots, half the documents, just rotate through. So this MPU edit notes will be here for a few days, and then it'll be gone to be replaced with something else. It's very ephemeral for me, but it's become this little scratch pad that I really enjoy using, and it looks great. It looks really nice on the iPhone, but the Mac app looks great too.
I think what makes it so useful on the Mac is that it's in the menu bar, and you know, if you've got a bunch of windows on your computer and you need to get some text somewhere, you've got to go through steps, right? You've got to load a new app, or you've got to move windows to get to an existing app. There's just a degree of friction there. And to be able to click on the menu bar and just start typing, there is an advantage to that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Even if you look at it as a temporary holding place, and because it's free on the Mac, if you just want that scratch pad on your Mac, you can get into this one for free. You don't have to sync it over to your phone and pay for the mobile app.
It's kind of like what Apple's stickies could have been if they ever brought it to iOS, but they never did. And so if you were like a stickies user, but now in the mobile world, you want stuff that syncs, Tot's a good alternative.
Yeah. So the one I'm stealing from you is Trip Mode. I mean, it's just such a great app. It's an app that I wish Apple would Sherlock. But the problem that it solves is when you're on your laptop and you're pairing with your iPhone to get internet, or you're connected to some sort of, wireless device, your Mac isn't smart enough to get that it's pulling internet from a data limited cellular connection as opposed to like Wi-Fi. And so like this has happened to me with like, we'll record a show, and the shows we record, the audio files are massive because we do them lossless. And then like I pull a laptop out and then connect to my iPhone when I'm out on the road, and suddenly I use up my monthly data cap because it's syncing all that stuff over to my laptop, even though I didn't want it to, via Dropbox. So you can, with Trip Mode, you can say, hey, when I go on a cellular connection, don't use these apps. Dropbox is one of the big offenders, but whatever data hungry apps you've got, you can turn those off and in essence, protect your data cap, but still have a wireless connection.
Yeah, it's really, really handy. If you have a laptop that you travel with, this is a must-have. Even if it's not just tethering over cellular, but you can use it. Say you're in a hotel and the Wi-Fi is really slow, and you need something done, and you don't want your photos library churning in the background, downloading the day's photos. You can just turn that off. And so that's actually how I use it more. Is not necessarily tethering, but on limited Wi-Fi. This 100% should be part of macOS. And I think if they do cellular Macs in the future, they're going to have something like this or some sort of low data mode, because the Mac just assumes that it has wide open internet and it can just do whatever it wants. And that's not true all the time. And so Trip Mode is, I kind of think about it as like a little guardian, protecting my network connection.
Yeah, but this really isn't just for laptops. I mean, let's say, hypothetically, we have a global pandemic, right? And suddenly you've got to make a bunch of Zoom meetings for work, and your computer is not doing well because it's got all this stuff going on in the background during your Zoom meeting. Well, with an app like Trip Mode, you could turn off all, the photo syncing and the Dropbox and all the other stuff, and just dedicate your entire, connection to that Zoom call. And then you look better, you sound better, you don't have the usual problems.
Yeah, that's a great point. Back in the day, recording podcasts, people would like turn off Dropbox and stuff, and you could totally use Trip Mode for that instead of visiting a bunch of apps individually. And a lot of the stuff there is, like the photos example, there is no switch in macOS to say, hey, photos, like don't do anything right now, like just chill. And so you can just kind of
Yeah.
force the issue with trip mode.
Yeah. And that's what, 2 computers for $20?
Yeah, it's great.
I mean,
All right. Rounding us out, I have Unite 4. They have also been a 512 sponsor in the past. So, but that is not influencing my choice here. I think a lot of us have used various tools over the years to turn websites into apps on the Mac, like with sort of a wrapper around them. And a lot of those have come and gone over the year, and a lot of them were kind of cruddy. But Unite 4 does a great job in making that really nice. So you give it the URL and the title. It does a really great job with icons. So it grabs like HD versions off the web and it can stylize them with backgrounds to make them fit on Catalina or Big Sur. You can turn a website into a menu bar app, a regular app, kind of whatever you need to do. And if you have this need of turning websites into applications on your Mac, it's awesome. It even has this cool compact mode. So if you want something like Instagram as a Mac app, it sort of tricks Instagram into thinking that it's on an iPhone. And so it loads like the small version. It's really cool. I use this with several websites I use for work, and I can just, instead of going to Safari and dealing with it, I can have them either in the dock or in the applications folder and search for them and launch them. It's like by far the nicest take on this idea that I've seen.
yeah, I would second that. I've used them all over the years. A lot of them were just unstable and never worked. This one is stable. It looks good. And you want to turn a website into an app, this is the app you want.
Yep. All right. That's 30.
Wow. That was a lot of apps, man.
It was a lot of apps. You can find all of them in the show notes, and we referenced a bunch of past MPU episodes, so I've got those in there too if you want to find out more about specific things.
Well, so it cost me an upgrade to AirBuddy,
okay,
and Fission license. That was my that was a cost for me today.
That's good.
That convince you to buy anything? You probably already had them
I need to upgrade my trip mode because apparently I'm on an old version, so that's on my to-do list now.
Yeah, version 3 is out. Yeah, all right, not so bad.
Almost everything else I already was running.
Yeah, if you're listening and you've got an app, a Mac app under $30, there's a great place you could share that with the world, and that's over at the forums with the show post for this one, 30 and 30, which will go up when the show releases. You can find that over at talk.macpowerusers.com. We are the Mac Power Users. You can find us at relay.fm/MPU. The show list just keeps growing, gang. We'd love to have you subscribe and keep up with us every week. Thank you to our sponsors, 1Password, Indeed, Squarespace, and Pingdom. We'll see you next time.